The nationwide industrial action embarked upon by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, on Monday, 14th August, have been greeted with mixed reactions. This path is not new, as strike actions over the decades have been the only way the union gets the attention of government. But however, these strike actions leave in its trail longer course durations for students, thereby affecting all plans that come along all they have to do, which includes graduation, youth service, further academic pursuits, certifications, and what have you. In fact, even starting a family. This is the thrust of today's episode of the program, Frank Talk. Good morning, I am Alpha Jagden. And with me in the studios today is one amongst those whom we term the direct victims of such strike actions. I am with the president of the Nigerian Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, in person of Comrade Chinonso Obasi. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Chinonso, ASU has yet again embarked on another strike action. What comes to mind?
Well, thank you very much. The strike embarked upon by ASU is not really the ASU, but I think it's all about the students. Because the effect on the receiving end is the students. Some of these lecturers who are members of ASU, believe you me, a lot of them have more than 4, 5, 3, 2 universities where they are lecturing. So some of them are also involved in private lecturing in private institutions. So talking about ASU strike without mentioning the students is as if we don't know what we're talking about. So it's all about the students, and the students are on the receiving end.
All right. Well, the students are on the receiving end. Can you give us an insight on what the current stance is as far as synergy is between the Nigerian students and ASU?
Well, over the years, before my coming into office as the national president of NANS.
How long have you been NANS president?
I'm NANS president a year and a month now.
Okay.
I became NANS president on the 19th day of July 2016. And we are in August. I marked my 1-year anniversary last month. So the fact is this: the industrial action over the years before my coming into office, NANS and ASU have not really been having a mutual relationship.
Okay.
Because I feel the ASU as per se, they have always seen the students as their students and people that they have a total dominion or authority over. No consultation before taking any action. It's obvious that at times as students, we go to bed and we wake up hearing that there is industrial action. For crying out loud, these are our parents. Even what they are agitating for their welfare or anything is not for their own welfare. It is to take care of their children, being us, the students. So I feel if they have done it well, there would have been proper consultation to also tell the students. It is the students that should be championing for the welfare of their lecturers, because when you don't take care of the lecturers, they cannot also impact the knowledge. We are the receiving end. When you don't take care of the lecturers, they go a long way starting the students, selling of handouts and every other crooked ways of getting funds. So I believe the students are on the receiving end.
Okay. Is NANS making any efforts at saying that the current industrial impasse is brought under control?
Yes, some minutes ago, even as of yesterday, I've been in touch with the national president of ASU, and we are reaching, and before now, the stakeholders and other past NANS presidents have consulted with them. We had our press release yesterday, and we have also given the federal government 21 days ultimatum to respond to them. The Nigerian students will go on the streets to demand for the government to intervene as soon as possible.
Why 21 days?
It's a long time. 21 days is about 3 weeks. I think that should be a good time enough for the both to review, because I believe the agitation is all about the agreement they had in 2009 and the MOU they also signed in 2013. So we don't want to go into details. But whatever been the case, 3 weeks is enough for them to reach out. Or the Nigerian students who are bearing the rough, they are not in classroom. A lot of them need to be graduating. A lot of them need to go to service. They have been stampeded by this action. So 3 weeks is a wide time for them to look into the whole issue and get settled.
Talk to us about the current state of NANS in Nigeria.
Well, the current state of NANS, asking me the question is as if you have not been following up my administration. because so far so good. Nouns have regained their voice.
It's not all about me, it's about people
Yes,
watching.
nouns have really regained their voice, and yes, it's unfortunate. The President Muhammadu Buhari administration, by some set of cabals who also felt they wanted to be in charge of everywhere. You can't be in charge of everywhere, but rather you can negotiate with people. You can negotiate with constituencies and know how to carry people along. Upon my assumption of office, there was this threat that I'm a former SUG president, I'm a former zonal coordinator, I participated in the 2014 National Conference. This guy can be a threat. He can be fighting the government. But no, I am an asset. I understand government and governance. And at my level, I have 2 degrees. I have my first degree in mechanical engineering, second degree in underwater welding and offshore technology. I'm a postgraduate student of technical and vocational education at Ebonyi State University. So there was this fears that this guy this man is very much experienced, that he can be confrontational. But since my session of office, I have been discussing and tackling issues. I've been issue-based leadership. I have no business with the politicians. I've been able to extract nouns from their word-giving organization and the organization that dance to the tone of politicians. Let us take a stand. We have regained the voice. And even when the politicians try to divide us, the students, having seen my performance, have, just like a few days ago, we were in Niger State to elect the new leader of Zone A. Zone A is the person who will be in charge of the whole Northwest. Even the person the so-called politician brought to factionize the organization was not there. So what are you talking about? The students even gave me an award as the hope of Nigerian students. University of Abuja students, in my 1 year in office, where I presented my irreducible minimum demand, which I'm going to give you a copy, on the demand of Nigerian students. They gave me an award as a voice of Nigerian students. So nouns used to be seen as an arm of government. It used to be seen as a tool of government.
Not too long ago, because we're actually going to discuss this.
Yes, but right now.
During our time, it wasn't the case.
Okay.
But after we left school was when we discovered that student union leaders were inviting politicians, were inviting military governors, administrators, and what have you, to come launch books written by them. And we were left wondering, how did we get here?
It's unfortunate. I think one of the problems that faced the organization is there is no Nigerian student who is a financial member of NAS. So sometimes when you see the leaders trying to raise funds or anything just to sustain the organization, they get involved in areas they are not supposed to get. But that is not enough.
But during our time, we paid dues to NANS. We paid dues to SUGs of various schools, and then they had a way of remitting a certain percentage.
They have not been doing that for the years past because of the restriction the government placed that the organization should be a voluntary service. So, like the bill I went some days ago to present in the public hearing in the House Committee on Tertiary Education and Services, it was part of the issues that we discussed. Thank God for Honorable Asai, Nicholas Asai, who raised the bill. And he's talking about removal of the restriction. If that restriction is removed, IGR can be generated, and the organization can be so autonomous that they can operate without going to get involved to any politician or anybody to get anything done. I am doing what I'm doing just because of the passion, and I'm indebted that I as a seasoned student leader, from student union president to the national president, there is nothing else I'm expecting in the organization, rather to leave it better than I met it. That is just what I'm doing.
Which is a good one.
Thank you very much.
You know, many have advocated that a state of emergency should be declared in the Nigerian education sector. What can we say is the stand of NANS?
Honestly, it is a clarion call. I feel very bad that when government is talking about areas of their interest, they have not prioritized education. If you have followed up my publications or my positions, it have always been how government can subsidize education. I feel if the government is really interested for the growth of a nation, the fundamental thing to consider is the foundation, and that foundation is education. When government prioritizes education, you find out there will be peace in the nation, because most of the persons used to cause problem or violence are people who lack this knowledge, are people who don't know the consequences of their action. You cannot see Nigerian students most time, the learned ones, get involved in some of social vices because they know the consequences of the action if they get involved. So I feel if the government is really interested in the future of the young people, in the growth of the nation, the basic thing is to prioritize education. There is no, it doesn't have an alternative.
Okay. So when we talk about a state of emergency, do you in any way lay credence to those kind of calls? Because whether we like it or not, from what we read and from what we see, so much has gone down the drain.
Yes, the state of emergency is necessary. Just taking a look at the national economic recovery and growth plan, where over 1 billion naira was spent to make that document available. The question there is, if really the government is interested in the growth of the nation, state of emergency should be declared, and that recovery plan is there is not much priority to education. The plan was not even made available for us to even know the content of the plan. If the plan contains if the plan prioritizes education, there is no need of the ASU to embark on strike, having also known that the economic recovery and growth plan, is part that the education is part of that plan. So for the state of emergency, the government does not have any other option. For we as an institution, as a body, as a voice of the Nigerian students, we are making plans to start our own sensitization, to begin to champion this campaign for the government to see reasons to prioritize education. That is just it.
But you know, beyond prioritizing education, I want to find out from you. You are the voice of the Nigerian students. I mean, I'm sitting with the country's #1 student here now. I want you to share with our viewers, how involved are you in the affairs of government? Do they ever call upon you for your input? There has been various clamors of late and what have you. Are the Nigerian students really given a place to place their voice?
Let me tell you, the ugly part of Nigerian government is when you are an activist and you are not dancing to the tone of the government, they see you as an enemy. They don't even consider your content. They don't even consider the fact of the constituency you are representing. For the fact we have been discussing issue based, we criticize the government when they get it wrong. We appraise them when they get it well. But for the plans and things they have been doing, they don't get us involved. We have been involved in other governments, like in the President Goodluck Jonathan's administration. We were part of the National Confab as students. In the 2012 Presidential Committee on Removal of Self-Subsidy, we were part of it. But this government have not had any way they have shown concern that there is a constituency called the student body, to also know what their own input is. So it is part of the things that is weakening this administration, because most of the persons they get involved are people who are politicians, but we are the people who bear this wrath, and we are in the position to get involved, to also make an own. They don't get us involved. That is just the ugly aspect of the whole thing.
And what have you done about that?
Well, what can we do? Do we fight them? We can't fight them.
It's not a function of fighting them, but at least you can make yourself relevant. If you just go back and sit down because somebody believes that, listen, you're of no sequence, I'm afraid that is how things will go down.
Yes, we are working out. So far, so good. They are beginning to reach out. My position earlier before now is based on what has been happening, but some couple of weeks and days, just like when I spoke with the presidency in London, a lot of issues were discussed, and they have also shown their solidarity to make sure that they begin to carry us along in what they are doing.
All right, when you talk about having spoken with the presidency in London, are you saying you spoke with Mr. President himself? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I did.
All right, and what did he say? Tell us a bit about what you
Mr. President is very, very fine. From the voice, there was no problem about the conversation. He's very, very sound, and he assured us and he appealed that we should continue to maintain peace in Nigeria, that we'll soon be back.
Okay, well, that's a good one. At least that's some story coming from the Nigerian student body. I want to find out from you, amidst numerous clamors for restructuring and what have you, you again is the voice of the Nigerian students. The Nigerian students no doubt constitute a large number of those who constitute our population. When we hear about the clamor for restructuring, what comes to mind? Has the Nigerian students sat down and taken positions as far as these issues are concerned? Issues that should be on the concurrent, that probably should be on the, issues that are on the exclusive, that probably should be shared with the concurrent, the residual, issues that, borders on devolution of powers and what have you. What is the position of the Nigerian student?
Well, the position of the Nigerian students cannot be different from the position we had in the 2014 National Conference, where I told you that I was a delegate. I cannot begin to contradict myself.
All right, talk to us about it.
That I'm holding the position now, the number one student leader, is not a position for me to begin to contradict myself,
Okay.
but also to use the platform to also propagate for the implementation of the 2014 National Conference.
What were some of these salient issues? Because that is what everybody is asking for today. You are here, Obasi. Share with us what are some of the salient features as far as this 2014 confab that you want to see brought to bear?
Well, I see a lot of things that this government implementing as being part of the 2014 National Conference.
But they have refused.
They have refused to mention that is the confab report. You know, a lot of things that the government is doing, I guess they have been. It's not even a guess. They are the recommendations of the 2014 National Conference. But for the fact, you remember, the opposition party today, the People's Democratic Party, under the leadership of President Goodluck Jonathan, was the one who convened the National Conference. And the APC then made their stand that they are not part of the confab. I think that is just the only thing that is delaying the implementation. Not that they don't know that the content is rich. There is not that better Nigerians that would have been there that is not there. Every sector is being recognized, and there was no lobbying. The president did not even show any interest on what the resolutions are. Even at that level, when some delegates who feel that they are very close to Mr. President, they try to reach out to know what the interests of the president. I am the youngest delegate who get involved in elder statesman discussions, where you have the likes of who is who. I am the youngest person who get involved in that discussion.
What did you learn from some of those discussions?
Some of the things I learned is diplomacy, dialogue, and negotiation.
We don't need to be confrontational.
No, confrontational is a means of a weak. When you use confrontational, is a means of showing your weakness. There is nothing that cannot be discussed.
So the old man's thing just washed out on you.
Yes. Yes.
Well, as we are talking about it, tell us, what are some of the things you want to see implemented?
Majorly, it's quite unfortunate. Like the National Confab recommended for the establishment of the Southeast Development Commission, which did not scale through because I guess the persons did not do what they are supposed to do. The National Confab recommended for the Northeast Development Commission, which has been established. I guess for the agitations that is happening amongst the Southeast persons, if that recommendations was implemented, there is no need of this clamoring of the IPOB, the Biafra, and all those things. Because I guess the Biafra spirit that we all believe is a spirit that an Igbo man should protect an Igbo man, is a spirit that an Igbo man requires a good road network, an Igbo man requires equity, justice, and equity. Do you get it? It's not about leaving the country.
So the Igbo man is feeling marginalized.
He's feeling marginalized.
But
and
every other sector of this country is
everyone is feeling marginalized, and all those things were captured. They were captured.
When we talk about economic emancipation of the Nigerian, as who you are, what comes to mind?
The economic emancipation of Nigeria is not nothing rather than the government must try in a way to empower and create an enabling environment for the people based on what is available in their own geopolitical zone.
Okay. So in other words, we are talking about, listen, we need to look at issues that bother on resource control.
Resource control.
Okay.
That is just it.
That's just the thing.
That is
That's
just it.
really the thing.
That is just a simple language.
Southeast Development Commission, no Southeast. If as long as there's resource control, most of these things will die a natural death.
That is just it.
Political restructuring. What would you want to say?
In political restructuring, we did also mention in the National Confab that the power rotation should be between the North and the South. That was just the power rotation should be between the North and the South.
Okay. And as far as you are concerned, that is okay.
It's okay by me.
Okay. You know, there are lots of issues that we have to discuss because let me find out something from you. The Not Too Young to Run bill just saw the light of day as far as the National Assembly is concerned, even though at some point it was almost, you know, not going to scale through. Now, this is yet to go to the 36 states. As the president of NATS, you are a young man. How much of youth inclusion do you want to see in politics?
You see, I'm also an advocate of the Not Too Young to Run bill. But for me, my emphasis places mostly on attitudinal change. It's not really about giving the youth power. It's not really about giving them positions. There is nobody restricting anybody from contesting an election or vying for positions.
Well, they feel that by
But the age restriction,
restriction,
which we also discussed in the national confab.
okay.
These are all confab recommendations. That is what we are telling. The problem of Nigeria lies on the implementation of the 2014 national confab. We did not call it not too young to run bill, but it was also established at a certain age, which is exactly what had been discussed on not too young, that young persons should be given opportunities to contest for an election. Take a look at issues like the local government. You find out when you go to the local government, the old persons have a better opportunity of running that election. But we're able in the national confab to state a benchmark that anybody who does not have a minimum of first degree is not qualified to contest for even a local government chairman, which is served like a base. So not
a first degree.
The first degree. So they're not too young to run bill. It's a very welcomed one, in the sense that for me, it will give an opportunity for the young people, and they will really perform if the opportunity is given.
But do you think the youths are really interested in running for political offices? You interact with them every now and then.
The youths are perfectly ready. They are perfectly ready, but what you must understand amongst the youths is that the youths does not also understand that the old men have a way of dividing them. The old men are the one who incites crisis amongst the youths.
What are some of these early warning signs that the youth should look out for?
They should look out for not allowing anybody to buy their conscience. They should have a vision. For me, I have not in any way got involved in any political affairs so far. I am not a member of any political party as I am now.
I don't expect you to be.
I don't know if you understand me, but I have also served for political parties under consultations and under appeal. Not because I'm their party member, but simply because they know what I can do. So the youth should not think that if you are not paid to do dirty jobs, that does not mean that you have a strength. They must learn to establish themselves so that their capacities can be established.
That's right.
A youth must be able to establish himself. Let you be known for something. You can't buy Chinonso Obasi over for no reason. Before I get involved in anything, I must be able to know, one, it must protect peace, unity, and progress of the country. So every youth should have this kind of orientation on having a mandate on what you want to protect. Not just because you are hungry, you will now forget that fasting is better.
And if we look at issues that bother still on youth inclusion in politics, what is your stance on money politics? Because whether we like it or not, no matter how many of them are willing to come up and take political positions, how do we deal with money? You just talked about having been involved in consultations with political parties. How do we deal with this issue that money is the major restraint, no longer age now?
It is a factor, but it's not a factor in one way. How it is not a factor is the persons that are being bought over with this money are still young people. You don't find the old people involved in electioneering processes. But if the youths really know what they want and they have a vision, they can make their positions known and deliver their candidates without even getting involved with anybody buying them over. Just as I told you, the young people lack vision. They don't even know what they want. They go by what comes by, which is part of the things weakening their system.
But how do we begin to strengthen the system if that is what is weakening the system? How much advocacy are we seeing? Who is talking to the youths? The National Youth Council, is it in place? Is NANS in place? Those that are supposed to advocate for these things, is it being done?
Just as I told you earlier on, the government is to create enabling environment for the survival of the people.
But for how long
sometimes
can we go on depending on the
yes,
government
but
that probably...
Yes, sometimes the government are also the one that create the environment not to be conducive for the people. If for instance, as a people, that we want to deliver a candidate for a certain position, you don't even need a political party to tell you whom their candidate should be. It should be based on who will protect the interest. Just like what is happening today in this administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. I want to state it categorically. The youths have not been carried along. We are just like spectators. There is no involvement of the young people in this present administration. And it is not that we don't like the administration, but we have things to offer. A lot of these old persons who are representing in one way or the other still depend on some of us on ideas on how to run affairs. Definitely. They still come back to us. Some of us are still the people who get down to put down the position papers that they go to present. Why not get us involved to get the system cleansed up?
Independent candidature is one of the things that has also seen the light of the day. Do you think that will in any way engender youth participation in politics?
Independent candidature is like a blessing in disguise. A blessing in disguise in the sense that part of the things that have not also given the young people opportunity to serve is because of the politicking involved in political platforms. But you see, just like a young man like me, if after the NAS presidency, I decided I want to run for an election, there is no candidate in my constituency that can beat me. Because of I know my relationship with my people, and also because I know who I am and I know the name I have made for some time. So the independent candidacy is a blessing on its own, that if a young person is opportuned to have a person who can invest in you because he believes you can deliver, without a political party, you can go on.
But to invest in you, we all know that even with a political party, people are investing in people, and what happens is the godfatherism factor sets in.
No, the investing in you does not mean you take total charge. Like for us, have you ever asked us how we raise our funds to contest our elections? You know, we travel around the 36 states in this country.
I can have
we'll
an
move around.
I have an idea.
I traveled around the 36 states in this country more than 3 times.
I have an idea.
I moved around over 200 institutions in this country more than 3 times.
Trust me,
within a year. So, and resources were also generated from people who believe in your dream. And that does not mean that I've entered the position that they dictate what I do. My administration have not had any political coloration. It have always been the interest of Nigerian students to be protected. So the independent candidacy does not necessarily mean that when you get there, the person will moderate. If you have somebody who believes in you, he has no other interest than to see you grow and to see you deliver.
All right. Many are calling for the abrogation of the National Youth Service Scheme, the NYSC. Your NANS president, do you agree with those kind of, because many of the opinion that it's obsolete and it's no longer of use?
Honestly, when you say people are clamoring, you should add me, because I'm part of those people. In the sense that you graduate from school, you spend a year, you study the course, you are not even practicing the course you have studied to enlighten your system or to enlighten yourself or to get more experience. You are just there to waste a year in the name of serving the nation. I feel if really we want to serve or want to be more patriotic, I am also an advocate that the National Peace Corps can be seen as a means of engaging the young people, not National Youth Service Corps. The National Peace Corps just came in. It can be a platform. It can be a platform where the young people will use it to advocate for peace, not only for Nigeria but for the continent.
Is peace our only problem?
It's not really about peace, but on that platform, you see that the young people or the graduates on their own, they will get more experience and they also get well paid.
What do you have against the National Youth Service Scheme?
For me, the National Youth Service Scheme, what I have.
Did you serve?
Sorry?
Have you served?
I've served.
Where did you serve?
I served in Enugu State.
What were your experiences like?
There was no experience. There was no experience in any form.
But as an Igbo man, why did you serve in Enugu? What state are you from?
I'm from Ebonyi.
Okay.
I was posted to Ibadan.
Okay.
I deployed to Enugu.
Why did you redeploy?
Because of my family.
Okay.
I'm happily married with 2 kids.
But that stopped you from serving the nation.
No, but I feel like me, I studied mechanical engineering
Okay.
in my first degree and my second degree underwater welding and offshore technology. If I'm really to serve the nation, I should serve in the area I have studied to add value. To add value.
But beyond that, I and you know that the National Youth Service Scheme came for national integration. National integration, I want to believe, was what the founders of that scheme had in mind. Historically, we understand it was after the Civil War. We needed to know ourselves better as a people. Do you think that with the current level of agitations in Nigeria, if Nigerians truly appreciated themselves as Nigerians, do you think some of these things we are seeing today will, even be on the front burner?
The National Youth Service Corps, the 1 year in service is not enough for you to acclimatize or to align yourself with other persons in
But
order
at
to
least,
play.
but if you
But
advocate
from
for the National Peace Corps,
from the birth or from our little times in the school, the system should begin to teach the people about the country called Nigeria and about the respect of culture and tradition of other geopolitical zones or other tribes. That you graduate from school and you go to National Youth Service Corps is not enough time. It should start from a little time. We don't longer teach histories in our school. We no longer propagate for people to really know what Hausa man means in Igbo land, or what to tell an Igbo man what a Yoruba man means, or to tell an Hausa man what an Igbo man is. So I believe if we are really interested in national integration, the National Youth Service, the 1 year is not enough for all those things, but the government should design a curriculum that will make everybody from primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions to get involved in all this. The problem in Nigeria is we don't have respect for each other. That is just the essence of this clamoring.
why don't we have respect for each other?
Because we lack the knowledge.
Well,
You don't know that.
How can we get the knowledge without practical coexisting amongst ourselves? There was something you said in your earlier remarks, that if it can be such that at the local government level, a first degree is your parameter for who should take leadership positions. If you just got a degree from a university or from a polytechnic or from other institutions that award, things like that, why are you of the opinion that the NYSC should not hold sway?
For me, the NYSC is not really the total abolition that I'm talking about. Your question was my view about it. It's still in form and it's still in order, but if an alternative to make it
What you are talking about, you want to see it
reformed
to meet
the standard or
Okay.
the act that have established it. It's just like the idea, the act that have established NYC is very, very perfect and good. The first NYC, the first DG of NYC, Senator Ahmadu Ali, we served in the same committee in the National Confab. He told me he was the first DG of National Youth Service Corps.
really?
And he was also disappointed that at the level it is now, it is no more the dream. People know it is no longer achieving the aim that it was
At
established.
that confab, what was his stance? What did he do about it to see that probably it is beaten into line?
I don't know.
You were on the same
for,
committee
for the plenary were together, and for me, I made my way to the Committee on Science and Technology on the personal interest of removal of BSc HND dichotomy, where Raymond Duplessis, the owner of the CEO of AIT, was my deputy chairman. I served in the committee. My interest, I have 2 HNDs. I'm interested to see that the dichotomy is removed because I know what is setback is causing.
And I believe that has been done.
It has been done, but
Yes, in principle.
but in practical, we are still expecting things to start unfolding. So Senator Ahmadu Ali, I think his major interest in the confab then, where he prioritized mostly, was the Jokuta Power Steel, the Jokuta Steel Company.
Well, he's from Kogi State, I believe.
So
I understand why
that was
why that would be
yes.
Anyway, I don't blame him.
Yes.
That steel rolling mill should be up and running.
Maybe there were also other inner discussions or permutations that were also done, which but I know he placed very much interest and play very much role for the Ajokuta Steel.
Obasi, we roll out thousands of graduates every year. And once they leave campuses, they go for NYSC. Once they leave the scheme, unemployment in most instances hits him. How worried is Nance about this trend in Nigeria?
Well, the truth of the matter is, majority of the graduates today in Nigeria are not even depending on the government jobs, because the government jobs does not even put food on the table any longer. What the graduates are agitating for is enabling environment. give us steady power supply, give us accessible roads. Our generation are very intelligent people. We
For
are
people
very,
like
very
you
innovative.
that are science oriented. What about for people that probably read administration, people that are not like practical, or permit me for the want of a better word, maybe read professional courses?
The professional courses, when you create that enabling environment for them, like you know, most of the things now are going into ICT. Everything now is on ICT. And when you find out, because we don't have this steady power supply, it's also affecting a whole lot of things. And the government must create a genuine way of recruiting graduates. For crying out loud, it is obvious that it's only those who have access to people in the government that get this job. Some persons say they pay. You pay before you get job. For a country like Nigeria that is being seen as the giant of Africa, we should be showing the lead. We should be like the face of Africa. And you find out that in this system like this, the persons who are even qualified don't even get this job. So the government should create a process that will genuinely get these persons. And more so, let me also inform you, there are jobs, which I have also verified. There are jobs some places. But you find out that the people who have these degrees as graduates cannot even prove what they have because of how porous the institutions have become.
Who is to blame?
The lecturers are to be blamed.
Why are they to be blamed?
They are to be blamed because they get involved in mischievous activities just to get some students past their exams.
Well, and beyond that, if ASU decides to go on strike because they believe certain demands have not been met, and these demands are aimed at seeing that they improve upon the standard of education in Nigeria, do we still blame them for that?
I don't blame them. Their demands are genuine and reasonable.
Okay.
We are in solidarity with them.
Oh, Nance is actually in solidarity with what ASU is doing now.
Yes.
Well, but you didn't say that initially.
Did you?
You didn't say that. I'm surprised you didn't say that initially.
We're in solidarity. That is why we gave the 21 days ultimatum.
Okay.
That was it. That is the solidarity. There's no other solidarity. We have given.
Put that in perspective.
We did not give. We just gave 21 days ultimatum for the government to align themselves and to redeem their
Can
demand.
we possibly get our educational sector back? We don't lack the manpower. That I don't believe.
We don't.
Can we get, as far as global best practices are concerned, Obasi, talk to me, can we get it back in Nigeria?
It's possible. It's possible in the sense that getting it back is government seeing education as a priority. Government have not prioritized education in Nigeria for crying out loud. It's not the government, the implementation of the UNESCO recommendation on 26% budgetary allocation is a sure way of proving that the government is interested in it. The government have not shown any interest in the education in Nigeria. How many of these government officials have their children in Nigeria? How many foreigners are schooling in Nigeria? That is the question you should ask yourself to assess our education standard. How many of the nobles or the great men are training their students or their children schooling in Nigeria? Or how many foreigners are schooling in Nigeria? Because people are not coming. That is to tell you the world don't have anything to offer.
Is it that bad?
It's very bad. Very, very bad.
How and what are we doing to see that? Now that we know the problem, how best can we correct it? At least from the Nigerian students' perspective.
The government should inject more funding to education or research. Very, very paramount. We find out in our institutions now we no longer do the normal researching. Government, the only thing the institutions do in generating IGR is increasing tuition fee. That is their only their last hope of generating fund. Increasing tuition fees, still on the falling back of the students. Leasing the auditoriums or the halls for burials and marriages, weddings, and
happens in our institutions.
that is what happens. You go to institutions or weekends, you see that even the students don't even have a place to study. You find out that even in the auditoriums or their halls is being used to do ceremonies. So the government, the implementation of the UNESCO standard of 26% budgetary allocation is a sure evidence and proof that the government is interested in education. As long as that is not done, we are not interested. The government have not shown any interest.
The privatization largely of the education sector. We have private universities everywhere in Nigeria now. Did it help in any way?
Honestly, it's a time bomb that will swallow everybody very soon. The way that the private institutions are gaining grounds and the public institutions is dying. You wake up one day as a child of nobody, you will not have access to education because there is no fund or there is no resources for you to even pay for these tuition fees. For crying out loud, I believe education should be a right, not a privilege. The earlier the government begin to invest in education, in essence that one, if a child is interested to go to school and the parents does not have what it takes to send that child to school, the government should have a way to come in. Because if you educate a child, he is not just an asset to the parents, but an asset to the nation. Just as I told you earlier on, most of the persons who perpetrate this crime in our society are people who lack this knowledge, who don't even know the consequences of what they are doing. So educating the young people or giving the children opportunity to go to school, you are also saving the nation. You're also saving the nation. So the child is not just a liability to the parents, but it should be a liability to the nation. But the government can also design a way that if a child goes to school under the intervention of the government, they should have a way to recoup their money back upon graduation, which will also make the government to make sure that as you are graduating, you are getting a job. I happen to be a guest speaker in a program, in a summit organized by the Association of Vice Chancellors of Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigeria in a NAF conference in 2016. I was one of the guest speakers who also discussed on silent issues. And what are we talking about? One of the discussants there is a graduate of Harvard University. Do you know, I was surprised to hear what she told me. She said even in her status now, that her institution sees checks on her to check on her well-being and to know how she's doing in her endeavor. Nigeria's system does not do that. We believe in our education system here in Nigeria, in our university, polytechnics and monoteknics, that the responsibility is just for you to pay your fees, get the knowledge, graduate, you go to look for the job. But I was so amazed to hear that a graduate of Harvard told me that it is a responsibility of the institution to even get a job for the students.
Well, places like Harvard, yes, I won't be surprised.
So what is no, different from us?
Other institutions, my dad studied in the US. He did his first and second degrees in the US, and I know they still write him. And this is way back in the 70s. But I know they still write him till not too long ago. At least I saw letters from 2 universities he attended.
Oh, you said.
Now, you know, are you saying that in any way that government should probably give loans to students to be able to achieve their academic what have you, and then like pay back later when you make reference to things like government should intervene and what have you?
Yes, that is the CONFAB recommendation. It is still part of the national CONFAB recommendation. For crying out loud, when you are doing this thing, it is not just for the betterment of the student, but also to save the image and the life of the nation. Because when you educate that child, or when you educate that student, or when that student get that knowledge, when government, before the issue of unemployment begin to have its own ground, and for graduates to get good jobs, it is only when government begin to invest on the students. Because when they invest in the students, they will create a platform for them to recoup their money.
The so-called professionals take leave immediately they graduate, and we hear they are doing great in other climes, medical doctors, pharmacists, engineers, and who have you. Do you think with what we are seeing today, and you won't blame them, because remuneration is nothing to write home about compared to other places, do you think we can ever attain some sense of sustainability of this policy you're talking about? Because people just go to school in Nigeria, and once they are done, they take off. These are things that we should be concerned about. The brain drain in Nigeria is such that we cannot afford to just look the other way.
The fact is this: Nigerian students are the most intelligent students in the world.
I like that.
They are the most intelligent people in the world.
I like
just that the government has been very wicked on us. Wicked in the sense that they have not had any way to encourage us. They have not had any reason to give us that enabling environment.
Governments come and go. Governments come
and go.
Is it the system or is it the government?
The system. When I talk about the government, it depends on who is manning the affairs of the government at that moment. You know, President Goodluck Jonathan did his own build by establishing some institutions. But it's not just enough to pronounce institutions and establish them, but to make sure that they come up to standard. You know, when you have structures and you have a name, that does not make it an institution.
No, but the truth, Jonathan is no longer governor.
That's what I'm talking about.
I mean,
when you talk about the President Muhammadu Buhari administration now, his interest, which he clearly stated, is on anti-corruption. So we will not judge him by his performance in education, but we also judge him by what he said he's coming to do, which is anti-corruption. But we also believe that because of the need of education, you cannot fight corruption without laying the foundation for education. Well, you cannot be fighting corruption without people knowing the consequences of being corrupt. I don't know if you understand me. You cannot be fighting corruption. An illiterate might not know, does not even understand what is corruption. Most of
those involved in these corrupt practices are not illiterate. They are people that have taken advantage of public offices, private offices that have been given to them to man.
And the people who checkmate them are the literate ones. Are you aware of my struggles on anti-corruption? Are you aware that I've taken some vice chancellors to EFCC, ICPC? As NAS president, the vice chancellor of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Professor Francis Otota, we took him to ICPC and EFCC, and we are still waiting for the report. The vice chancellor of Federal University of Technology, Akure, who is suspended, is our struggle. We made all those efforts. So we are doing that not because we hate them, but we are interested that this is our future we want to protect. You cannot be corrupt, or we cannot perceive some corrupt practices in you, and you be the one manning our affairs. That means we are going to produce corrupt graduates. So, but it is not about me. It's about the system. But who takes over from me as NAS president, I don't know whether he's going to consolidate. But for my own administration, I am in line with the anti-corruption war, which I have also charged the presidency and the EFCC boards and ICPC, that we can only give them pass mark, or we can only score them on them putting their searchlight in our tertiary institutions. Because the highest form of corrupt practices are practiced in the tertiary institutions.
Okay, what are some of these things you see? Some of us left school quite some time ago, and it will be a bit hard to probably just sit down and assume this is going on.
Let me ask you this question. Is it wrong that when an institutions have allocations, or when an institutions have interventions, it is wrong to make it public in the institutions for the students to even know that this is what
for the sake of transparency?
But at any time that any student leader wants to ask, you are being seen as an enemy in the institution. Why? If there is no ulterior motives or any other corrupt intentions behind it.
That can earn you a suspension or even an expulsion.
I don't know if you get it. If you want to ask questions on what is the stake of students on allocation. When I was the student union president, there was the institution wanted to increase school fees, which I stopped. But I did not stop it because I'm against it. My only question is, the ones who have been paying, please, I want to get the details of what we have been paying for. Do you get it? It became a problem. So when we are talking about corrupt practices in the institution, the system is being run as if the Nigerian students are visitors in the institution. We are stakeholders, for crying out loud. There cannot be any institution without the students. Right. The lecturers cannot lecture themselves. Therefore, for them to work very well, there must be a mutual relationship between these two parties. The two stakeholders must really know what is part of it, must know when the problem arises, and put their heads to bring the solutions to solve the problem. That you are a rector, you are a provost, you are a vice chancellor, does not make you to have the whole knowledge on how to run the affairs. Even the students do most of the involvement and reach out with their own sister unions and students in other parts of the world. They can also give you ideas on how to move on. But the only thing that these institutions do sometimes is, when they see you're a vibrant student leader, they find a way to weaken you. Or is that they even find a way to suspend you, or they begin to threaten you, and it is only take the grace of God to some of us who don't comply to threat. If you threat someone like me, you are wasting your time, because I'm a product of God. I'm God's project, and I'm working divinely. So whatever I do is not to antagonize, or is not to speak ill, but to protect my generation.
What is key is, as long as you know that those who live in glass houses don't throw stones, I think you're home and dry. Because a lot of people go and collect from the back, and then when they come, they can.
No, it is not that it's not that such offers does not come to people like us.
I understand.
It comes every day. But just as I told you, the problem of the youth is attitudinal change. You have to know what you want. I told you earlier, food is important. Food is very important for you to kill hunger.
Oh, I know that.
But fasting is still better. Are you aware?
I don't know what you mean.
I mean that fasting is still better. When you eat food, it's just for you to look good and for you to have energy. But when you fast, you are more conscious, you are more alert, and you are more energized.
With hunger?
Yes, hey, forget about it. That is the truth of the matter.
Mr. Obasi, thank you so much for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you.
We've had a great time discussing on various issues. Your 21-day ultimatum, I hope something happens soon, and I hope that ASU gets you involved because you are the stakeholders.
Yes.
My pain really is that at the end of the day, the students, the parents still remain the victims.
Sure.
So it's my sincere hope that government, ASU, and other stakeholders will come together and see that our educational institutions are the better for it.
That's it.
It hurts when you hear people saying, listen, I got admission abroad, and they're saying, because you came from a Nigerian university, you will have to do this extra, you will have to do that extra, you will have to. It doesn't speak very well of us. And one thing I know is that, as you did mention in your earlier remarks, we are a great people.
Very
God
great.
has given us this.
Right.
And it's left to us to put our house and to get our acts together.
Sure.
Well, Mr. Chinonso Obasi happens to be the national president of Nigerian students, that is NANS. One thing you did mention is the fact that NANS is apolitical under
Sure.
your regime.
Yes.
I'm happy to hear that.
Thank you
And
very
I
much.
hope that that will continue. Whoever takes
Sure.
over from you, I hope same will continue. Thanks for your time, my dear brother.
Thank you very much.
Well, this is all we can take for now. Do join us same time tomorrow for yet another interesting edition of the program. I am Alpha Jack.
Thank you very much, sir.